I always felt that there was a template that was being forced on the city. If it works in New York or London or Paris, we're going to take that template and we're going to apply it here and we're going to see success. The vision of Dubai was build bridges, an airport and an airline and roads, real infrastructure before anything else. This is real forward thinking.
What were the early shocks?
The restaurant world, first of all, requires certain depth of knowledge into many things. You're dealing with contractors, you're dealing with mechanics, you're dealing with technicians, you're dealing with chefs, you're dealing with the media, you're dealing with IT, you're dealing with guests.
What shocked you in operation?
I'm a people's person. I'm a person that likes to make collective decisions. I'm the one who likes to get feedback from the ground. My mindset is we don't have to follow things simply because we were told that this is the only way to run restaurants. I wanted to challenge every classic notion.
But how do you hold on to that? My one restaurant is making more profit than somebody's 10 restaurants.
No, to be honest, it's...
Hi, welcome to Restrocast. Today, I have on the pod Omar Shihab, the man behind Boka in Dubai. Omar's journey is one of, if I have to encapsulate it, if I have to, put it in one word, is care. Caring for the smallest things, the minutest details in your life, and when they compound over a decade, they make you a star. They help you be somebody whose creation cannot be ignored. With Boka, and in this conversation, you will see the value of not only just being green or sustainable, or conscious, but the roots of it. Where does it come from? Why is Boka, going in that direction? Why did they make it there? It's a tale of caring for environment, caring for people, caring for customers, caring for food, caring for the brand, caring, to tell their story in the rightmost way, and staying put without getting distracted by all the worldly distractions of, expansion or lack of it. It was a really inspirational conversation. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Welcome to Restrocast. Omar, welcome to Restrocast.
Thank you.
I, have been reading so much about Boka and the practices that have, led to that. I want to know all about, how are you doing it? You're talking about zero waste cocktails, and you're talking about, you're talking about marine life conservation, and you're really doing your bit, not only at the restaurant, but at the root. But before we dive into all of that, I want to know how it all started, because I don't think that people enter restaurant industry by choice. It's always an accident, generally. What happened, and how did you land it?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Wow, where do we begin? The origin stories of the restaurant.
How did you just get me to how did you end up as a restaurateur?
So this is the year 2011. I had just resigned from my first job straight out of university. I was a research director for a company that was based here in Dubai, and we were covering quite a large region in terms of covering the economics and research part of that organization. Our clients were the large IT firms of the world, the IBMs, the Microsofts of the world. And I decided that I needed a break to experiment with other projects, pursue a full-time MBA program. So that particular year, I was dabbling with a few projects. It was kind of my gap year, if you like. And one of them was a family business. The extension of my family, my in-laws, had invested in a restaurant franchise, actually, out of Italy. That was not their core business. That's not the main business of the family. They were in distribution of luxury brands, perfumes, cosmetics, and they saw this as a natural extension of what they do, kind of a vanity project, if you wish. And I offered to take it on and assist in the relaunch that they wanted to have in that particular space. So I started working with the original franchise owners from Italy. We started reigniting and re-energizing that brand. The brand was called Cafe Florian. And it's one of those historical cafes from San Marco Piazza in Venice. So they had just brought in new investors and they wanted to roll out the brand as a luxury concept all over the world. From Tokyo to
sounds like Lily,
Dubai and Abu Dhabi. So this is the origin story. Later on, I found myself at the time when that contract was up for renewal. I put in my advice saying, if the family wants to stay in this business and willing to put down investment moving forward, I believe that there could be a lot of benefit and obviously return on investment in something that is homegrown. It was, I believe, the right moment. I mean, in hindsight, right now, looking back at that particular time in the timeline of restaurants in the city, it was just about to tip from a city depending on mostly imported brands and celebrity chefs. See, if you look at it from a broader perspective, in the 80s and the 90s, dining out was predominantly street food, franchise QSRs, right? The Americana group of KFC and Pizza Hut. You had hotel restaurants. And then towards the end of the 90s, you started seeing the Gordon Ramsay type of concepts. You started hearing of celebrity names setting up flagship restaurants. And then obviously you had a big rollout in the early 2000s. And that particular time between 2010, 2011 to 2015 and up until now, you started really seeing people, guests, and generally the public kind of craving something that is a little bit homegrown, something that is built by people living and working in Dubai, in the UAE, the place that we all call home. Something built from the ground up. And those were the real motives and the initial motivation and ideas behind what would become Boka.
Awesome. A lot of, what do you mean by people craving for something that is homegrown, that is here? How do patrons care? And in what way do they even recognize that?
First of all, from my perspective, I always felt that there was a template that was being forced on the city from a dining concept. If it works in New York or London or Paris, then it must be sensational, exceptional. We're going to take that template and we're going to apply it here, and we're going to see success. I mean, this is what a lot of these concepts and franchises, and a lot of the operators and owners here believed in. That why do you want to recreate the wheel? Why do you want to create a name when it's already built for you and it's set up?
And somebody has done it, proven it.
Exactly. But it doesn't necessarily represent or link or connect to either this land or the community or the culture or the people. It's applied on us. And I am from that school of thought that, especially, and maybe it has to do with my upbringing and my background. I was born and brought up in this city in the UAE. My parents have lived here since the early 80s. We're originally from Jordan, but this is where we call home. And I truly believe that we have enough capable, creative people to, first of all, be able to create something that is world-class, that is also representative of the culture, the land, whatever is being grown here or created or conceptualized and imported to the rest of the world. Why do we need to rely on someone else's vision? We can create our own vision on global standards. This is really the mindset. And I think there is certain sort of pull in that. There is certain power. There's such a compelling argument for guests or diners or the people who are going out and obviously trying to connect with restaurants, with concepts, with chefs. At the end of the day, it's a people's business. And we're really, later on, we'll probably get to this, really see ourselves as platforms for a lot of discussions that happen within the community, within the culture. We're not disconnected from this land or its people.
Omar, I haven't met a lot of people who could actually tell me, or at least it's just me, that they grew up in UAE, right? They were born and raised here. I'm curious, I'm sure you meet most of the people in life who are, immigrants, but later, much later in their life, in their adult life. What's your relationship with Dubai? Or I should say UAE or Dubai? Because I
was born in Dubai. Lived in Sharjah most of my early life, and then moved to Dubai, to the city.
So what's your relationship, and how is it different? What nuances you see are different in your relationship with the city and with the country versus somebody who, let's say, migrated here 10 years back?
Obviously, the first thing that comes to mind is seeing the entire journey of development, the rise of the city. It's always been forward thinking, and then obviously kudos to the leadership of Dubai and the UAE and the vision that they've always had ever since the creation of this nation. So. And that has always been distilled, and that's always been inspiring, for me and for my family who moved here for obviously better opportunities. We were made to feel that this is home, although the general mindset of even, I think, my parents, when they initially moved here, that this is all temporary and we're gonna go back at some point. But for me and my two sisters, we were all born here. To us, this was home. This is where we go to school. This is where we have our friends. All of my extended family are still in Jordan, and we would still enjoy summer breaks in Jordan, but that would be it. And I think growing up here gives you a certain perspective on life. In the sense that you're exposed to a wider culture base. You have people from all over the world. You're interacting with a whole, a lot of people from speaking different languages, and your ability to communicate and to connect, whether it's during school or to do business or any transaction. I think it gives you a wider perspective. And that's been always my dad and my mom's friends base. They were from different parts of the world. I think I really enjoyed that, and that's something that we grew up with. And obviously, hearing of all the stories of the leadership and the forward thinking, and the vision that until today there are a lot of neighboring countries that are playing catch up. This has always been the direction to build real infrastructure before anything else. The vision of Dubai was, from the early days of the late Sheikh Rashid, was to build bridges and tolls. That's something that he created back in the days to help fund the bridges, the Garhoud and Al Maktoum Bridge, and then creating obviously an airport and an airline and the dry docks and a free zone and roads and real infrastructure before anything else. So this is real forward thinking. And obviously, moving into the late 90s and the early 2000s, when the big boom started to happen and the insane infrastructure and everything that you see.
What was that like, from your eyes? And I'll give you some perspective, right? My first visit to Dubai was 2012.
Okay.
Right. And when I look back, or rather I would say, and I've been kind of doing business here for last, 7 years, give or take 1 year. And between 2012 and 17 also, I kind of kept on visiting, various reasons. When I look back, I feel that I've seen this getting developed.
Yeah.
Right? And when I look at Dubai, I'm like, yeah. I mean, I sound like, how our parents sound that what, when I used to come, that nothing of this sort was there. I can literally count areas that were not even existent.
Of course.
How did the boom of 2000 look like to you?
No, I mean, I still remember how it felt growing up before any part of the city was built. And, you've heard the stories of the people who also grew up here, and they will tell you how there was really literally nothing in the city, really spiraled, across this very long coastline. And I remember going to, we used to, on the weekend, obviously in great weather, attend a lot of events at what is the Mina Siyahi back then, what is still called Mina Siyahi, up in where the West End and the W Hotel are right now. It was obviously there was a much slower pace to life. There weren't as many people, there weren't as many places. So it was really great to grow up during that era. Distances were shorter because there was not a lot of traffic, obviously, to deal with. And what was great is, for almost 5 to 6 months out of the year, my dad was loved road trips. We all grew up loving road trips. So we visited all of the Emirates and spent, a bit of time in all of them doing various things from, clam fishing in Al Quwain, where, there are big developers right now, to, all the way on the East Coast in Fujairah and Al Ain. And so it was incredible to see the entire country during that time and see the huge contrast with what it is today. So yeah, obviously all the stories that you've heard, and I think you kind of have this appreciation for the old part, which obviously a lot of it is still there, especially here in the city, down in the Creek area.
Yeah.
Growing up in Sharjah as well, around the Corniche, that was really almost our playground. That's where I spent my childhood. You have that appreciation for not just the place, but also the people that call this place home, that have invested their entire lifetime, all of their work and their effort and now their children and their children's children into contribute to this wonderful place.
The culture, at times I wonder, culture generally is the oversimplified version of what a culture is generally in homogeneity, in one kind of race and one kind of religion and one kind of people, and coming from the same experiences compounded over decades and centuries, and where it becomes the way of that country or way of that city, and that's generally confused as culture. I feel that culture is definitely much deeper and it's more layered than that. But in UAE, given that you literally have people from all over the world flocking in here, and I also believe that there is the other side of it is that most of them feel that they're temporary in their head. They may not be practically they've been living forever. And not talking about your parents' time. Yep. I'm talking about, let's say, last 10, 15, 20 years. Does that, in your view, what's that cultural element when you see is your own view of UAE culture is your own bubble where you feel that, hey, these are my people or my friends and my childhood friends? Is that culture? Or how does it take it from this continuous transient people who ideally will come here transactionally, and I'm saying this not in a good or bad light, right?
Sure,
I mean, they're here on work.
Yeah.
They focus. They have their target. 5 years, I'll get out. Whether they're able to get out or not, a separate problem, right? How does that? What takes from that culture? How do you balance it out in your permanence while the world around you is continuously transient?
That's definitely a kind of not really an existential thing that I think about all the time. There are obviously a few of us who grew up here, and we have this similar connection and certain nostalgia to a certain time here in the country, in the city, certain connection to places and again timelines. So we share that. I meet a lot of people who also grew up here, and there are a lot of commonalities that we share. We also share connection with native Emiratis who we've visited their homes. We've celebrated together different occasions. I went to a public school here in the UAE, so I understand that way of life. And there has to be a certain, obviously, understanding of true Emirati culture and the people that have created this nation. And there are nuances, right? There are differences between people from Abu Dhabi versus the people from Ras Al Khaimah and people on the East Coast and people in Al Ain, and the history is also beautiful of the different tribes that created this nation. And then you have, because this has always been a transient part of the world, a center for trade, a place where a lot of movement from the East to Africa and to the West and to the rest of the Asia and Europe has always been a place where different people from different parts of the world have met. And that has just evolved into what it is today. So to truly appreciate, I think, living in the UAE, you'll have to have appreciation for a lot of these groups that call this place home, and get used to the fact that there are certain friendships, and I feel this a lot, that you will forge and you will hold dearly. But then at some point, like you said, these people see it really as a transient place and will move on. But I see it as friendships that I now have gained somewhere else in the world. So in a way, the relationships that you forge here and the interactions don't just stay here, but they go global. So it's really, really unique, I feel. There is a way of life. There is a certain lifestyle and a certain way that you go about your day-to-day or your entire year as a person living here in the UAE. But again, there are certain groups and certain interactions that are, again, really, really unique.
Tell me about your early shock and awe when you took over the decision to, kind of look at the family business or this franchisee, brand that they had, what was the first reaction? What were the early shocks and confusion and opportunity? What happened? How did it start?
Wow, so many, and this continues until this day. I think the restaurant world running this type of establishment or this type of industry, first of all, requires certain depth of knowledge into many things. It is on a daily basis, as a restaurateur, as someone who's operating concepts, you're dealing with contractors, you're dealing with mechanics, you're dealing with technicians, you're dealing with chefs, you're dealing with the media, you're dealing with IT, you're dealing with guests. There are so many, there's a whole bunch of skill set that it's hard to come with.
And all of them at high intensity.
All of them at high intensity, and all of them at high urgency as well.
Yeah.
Because as we're talking, the restaurant is operational. There's a transaction taking place. The restaurant is open 7 days a week for 16 hours a day. So everything that could go wrong will always go wrong at the wrong time. This is
Murphy's Law is your friend.
This is a fact. So all you could do is make sure you've done your homework. There are certain non-negotiables. There are certain basics that have to be in place, whether it's safety from a guest perspective, from obviously our employees, our staff, from a food perspective. There are certain non-negotiables, of course, that have to happen, yes or yes. But then everything else, you just open the doors and hope that you've done all of the remaining homework, from making sure that the AC is working to the staff knowing what they're serving that day. Everything can go wrong. Looking at specifics, the early days, I think a few shocks that I have faced was dealing with partners and franchise owners and conflicting visions.
Give us an anecdote. Give me a.
So, the owners of that particular franchise had just jumped into a global expansion, and they wanted to execute their vision down to the T. Rightfully so. They're the owners of that particular brand. But because there were many parts of that project were skipped in the past and certain compromises made up until the stage when the restaurant was created, there were many perhaps things between owners that were not clarified or skipped. So in order to go back and to make sure that everyone agrees that if the franchise owners wanted the table plated in gold, that's what needs to happen. And to a certain extent, to a large degree, that happened. But obviously, moving forward operationally, understanding the intricacies of this particular market, Dubai market, for example, and the evolving, way that it has been. That's been happening in that particular market and that particular time, and the change of concepts and that particular industry has called for different kind of operational execution. For example, in the original concept, they do not have hot food. It's all sandwiches and snacks, and that's exactly how they wanted it to be. For the size and the location, it didn't make sense at all. So what we offered is to develop for them a localized version of what a full-fledged restaurant could look like, with taking all the brand guidelines, everything that they've asked to do, and apply it and present it to them. But that was not sufficient. So there was a lot of back and forth. And obviously when you have such a deep discussion about fundamental things, then you've got a serious problem.
Correct.
A serious problem. So there was a lot of back and forth. There was a lot of energy And obviously a lot of resources were spent and not in the right way. And that was the time when it only made sense to break from that contract. So those were
operations. What shocked you in operations or working with people inside the restaurant?
How to, I'm a people's person. I'm a person that likes to make collective decisions. I'm the one who likes to get feedback from the ground up to try to rethink perhaps what is taken for granted as a systematic way of running a restaurant. And I think this has always been my mindset, is we don't have to follow things simply because we were told that this is the only way to run restaurants. I wanted to challenge that. I wanted to challenge every classic notion or every classic idea that certain things have to be done a certain way. Because I believe that we are, first of all, coming from that background, that we are a young nation that's developing at the moment. And we live in a timeline where, classic rules sometimes don't really matter. So what do people want? People's way of life is evolving and changing. And we need to adapt as restaurants, because restaurants are places where people gather. We interact. We are not robots. I've always wanted to get the real feedback into what guests are looking for, what kind of experience, how do they want to be treated, how do they want to be addressed, how do they want to be served. We're also people serving people. So how do staff like to be treated? While executing that vision, of course, correctly, while respecting that this is their main source of livelihoods. So I've always wanted to address it from that perspective, and it doesn't always translate. It's not always appreciated, or that vision is not always shared, even by staff or people working. So there are certain people who are used to working in certain ways. So it really takes a level of maturity that perhaps is not so common in our industry, given the limited, obviously, access to resources and obviously all the financial burdens that a restaurant comes with. So in a way, I think that was always my challenge, because I was adamant at running things from a human perspective, versus balancing all of this with making sure that we're running a profitable restaurant that is taking care of itself financially.
What was your first professional assignment like? So your early years, what did you do education in, and what was your first job or your how many before? Talk to me about your career before restaurant.
So I studied at the American University of Sharjah. I graduated with a business degree, with a specialization into IT systems. And straight out of university, I joined a business headquarters of a global company that was seeing a lot of growth, a lot of obviously potential here in the region. So that was the year 2002. So I assisted create the Middle East and Africa base for that company. And it was an exciting time in my life. I was given a lot of freedom, a lot of responsibility to assist in opening bases across the Middle East, across the African continent.
This role was a business role, an analyst?
I was a researcher. I was an analyst. Oh. That's how I started. And then I grew into a managerial position, into a director position. I was part of the conference team as well. So we would go on roadshows across different countries. I would lead entire programs. I would MC an entire program. It was a really exciting time. I was recruiting colleagues across the African continent in different bases. I was spending a lot of time on the road. Like I said, it was an exciting time. And then we gained government projects in here in the Gulf, and I was stationed on site as a project manager as well. And that's where I started planning my move out of that. I didn't want to jump immediately to the next thing, and that's when I decided to take that.
But why did you want to move?
I just thought it was the right time for me. I mean, at that stage, I'd spent 8 years. That was my first and only job straight out of university. So I felt that I've crossed a certain career path and progression within that organization. And I wanted to have not a hard reset, but I wanted to go back and understand where I stand and help me leap into the next stage.
What was the potential career path when you were going on this sabbatical or a gap year? What was the potential career that you were thinking about?
A few things. Moving to a client side, because we were kind of an agency. Moving to one of the larger companies that were our clients. Moving into consultancy role. Moving into perhaps a startup, and at that stage there was a lot of energy into in the world to create new disruptive
2010 2011
yeah, exactly. So that was the moment, and perhaps the network that the school would have provided would have definitely enabled. So those were definitely the paths that I was on.
What, your early years, your early jobs, the condition because that is also the time when you are, discovering your own superpowers or lack of it. And, and you start kind of just leaning towards, you make your own space in the area where you are very good and you start compounding that. And given in your case, it was only one job, straight 8 years, I'm 101% sure that was true. What, parts of your, career shaped you that, today help you run the show as you do? What are those traits? What are the things that you picked up and made a muscle out of it?
I think early on we were thrown into a boardroom filled with very anxious senior executives. I will never forget this. It was still my first year, and we had just published our first report. And I was thrown in the room along with obviously my colleagues to defend these numbers to a board of executives who we just told that this is where how the market has grown versus your growth. So their bonuses were not going to be paid because their bosses and the way they were measured against were the numbers that we've actually put together. So I think from that time, it was extremely important to have high integrity in my work, in understanding where these numbers come from, how we crunch these numbers, and how we present them. We had to defend them down to the decimal point. And if you see where I am today and what I'm trying to do with the restaurant, especially from the sustainability claims that we are putting out, I have to be able to defend all these numbers down to the T. So beautiful. Integrity and honesty and transparency is extremely crucial and fundamental to me. I am unable to make any claims, even as me in my daily life. I would rather take a moment and pause, or be quiet and not answer if I am not sure of what I'm about to say and the source of what I want to say. So this was an exercise that I learned early on, and we had to carry through, because everything from that moment onwards, we had so many interactions that are similar to that. And remember that, during that first that first job, that first part of my career, we had the huge financial crisis of 2008.
Yeah.
So anxiety was like tenfolds of that among all of our clients. People's jobs were on the line. So we had to double down on integrity. We had to double down on transparency. We had government projects where that is obviously non-negotiable. You'll have to be fully transparent in everything that you do and the source. And you know, there are certain policies that we helped shape. So the work was extremely important, extremely important. Another part that was fantastic to me and really excites me a lot was recruiting and finding new colleagues and new people and new places that I've never been to. So understanding the local psyche, understanding the local culture, you know, in places in East Africa, in Nairobi, in Lagos, in Nigeria, in Casablanca, in Morocco, in South Africa, and in Turkey, and in Central Europe was so critical to what I did, because again, we depended on people that had to have a similar mindset, who were going to present everything that we were doing and actually get the groundwork. And managing these people, again, remotely was an important exercise. So there's a certain level of trust that I had to build with the team that I would lead for the next 5 years. So that was another exciting part. And one part that also I found really extremely important for my confidence was leading these roadshows. So we were the experts on certain topics and subjects that was at the leading edge of technology at that point. We just started talking about cloud computing, for example. So we had to be the experts for the providers, for the likes of Microsoft and Dell and IBM, and lead roadshows to present this thought leadership and then moderate an entire day of expert opinions and panel discussions. So I did that in my mid-20s across different countries here in the region and broadly speaking in Europe as well. So that part also gave me a lot of confidence.
Well, how did it translate into what you're doing today? So how did that muscle manifesting in your current work?
So a number of things. Obviously, having integrity, I think is the base for.
Yeah.
For me, I believe every business should have this, because if you don't have this, then you're really relying on a day-to-day kind of hustle.
Correct.
And that has to be there, but you have to have a base of integrity. You have to have a base of principles that you stand behind. The way that you treat people, the way you treat the value chain, your suppliers, the way that you see yourself within the community. I think that is non-negotiable for me. The way you treat and you deal with everyone that you have to go through to get your job done on a daily basis. I think that is non-negotiable. From being in a people's business, gaining trust of the people that work with you, that work for you, the people that you're working for, whether it's, you know, the owners of the business or the people who are actually spending money in restaurants, our guests. There is a certain level of trust that people have in a restaurant. You know, you're walking, you decide to hire a nanny at home so that you and your wife and your partner could go out brave through Dubai's traffic and go to a restaurant to spend your hard-earned money. And dining out is not cheap in Dubai. That is a huge trust that is given to a restaurant, I believe. So you better be able to provide and deliver at that level of trust.
So my question is, how does it, like, for example, you know, you talk about gaining the trust of people when you're recruiting them, when you're hiring them, when you are signing them up for your mission or vision. how did it manifest in your current business? Were you able to retain more people? Are you able to hire better talent? What does it look like, for your people skill?
No, I believe that it's definitely, this is a business that is so, turnover. You've heard it from the incredible people that you've had on the show. You know how that's one
and
of
that's
the
why
biggest
this question.
challenges.
That's what I'm asking. I mean, because attrition is there, turnover is huge. It's crazy almost. So how does this leadership skill, the people skill, manifest in your current?
It's another tool in that toolbox that you want to have when you're approaching this particular issue. Like I said, we are people serving other people. So if you don't have the right, not just the skill set, because you can teach certain skills, but the mindset and the attitude, that's what we recruit for in the beginning. Of course, there are certain experiences that you have to have, certain things that you must have done. But at the end of the day, the make or break, or the main factor for deciding, at least on a very senior level, and it obviously trickles down to everyone else, is that attitude and that willingness to learn, that loyalty, that ability to go through. So you don't expect everyone to be with you throughout the entire journey. That's unrealistic for sure. So let's be true, especially in a market like Dubai, where it's not just transient, but it's constantly evolving, and things are not cheap, and people want to move certain places, right? And obviously in the last few years, the number of restaurant openings and competition, and it's competitive from a restaurant trying to seek resources, and mainly human resources. So you need to have a lot more in your toolbox than just good compensation, right? So you want to be able to compensate them fairly. You want to be able to treat them fairly. You want to be able to provide the correct hours, the flexibility, the understanding, looking for what they really want. And a lot of times it's about having a sense of belonging, having a sense of attachment, being there. Things happen all the time in the restaurant world from a staff perspective. People get into certain troubles, people get sucked into certain areas, people get sick, people have extended families living in different parts of the world. So how are you going to show up when these things happen? I think there's a certain message that you can send across, and that loyalty is always valued. And in our case, obviously, providing that additional education and awareness about everything that the restaurant stands for from a sustainability perspective, offering that training and the opportunity to evolve and grow, that adds another layer of compelling argument to stay with the organization. I think that goes a long way. One thing that I've heard recently as well from this incredible chef from Australia was just listening. Sometimes people just want to be listened to. Sometimes it really means the entire world if you dedicate time to listen from different parts of the organization, of the restaurant, to what people are really going through, their perspectives, their challenges. That really goes a long way, and it will help you shift certain mindsets.
I can't agree more. 100%. I think a lot of I think people just want to be heard. They it's surprising. I think I also discovered this through my journey, where I realized that it's not only that. I mean, most of the times people don't even want any recourse or a solution. If you listen to their problem,
absolutely,
90% of the impact evaporates and 10% can be helped.
So true.
What's happening at Boka? You're doing, and I haven't had the good fortune to dine there so far. So this is a fresh fresh listener in me. I am really, really curious. What's happening? What are you doing? Tell me everything. What's your cuisine? And how are you doing this sustainably? Because the numbers that I read, and now that we know that those numbers are real to the decimal points in case you are claiming. How are you doing this, and what are you doing?
Oh, you gotta come and see it. What you will see is an evolution of 10 years. I think we have definitely crossed many milestones and many paths, and our thinking has changed and evolved as we realized and discovered so many things. As the city changes and evolves as well and grows. And I'm very proud of what we stand for today. I'm very proud of what the brand represents and what people connect us with. When it first started, like I started saying, that it was born out of a belief that we have enough creative, capable, knowledgeable people that call this place home, that work and live here, that we can come up with a concept that fits the right zone or area or encapsulation market that we have, and deliver on a global standard, on a high level. And that was really the idea from the get-go, believing that our neighbors are doing such an exceptional job at the height of dining that we can offer something that contributes to that we would add value to that entire area. Yes, of course, we're another restaurant in that zone, but we're a restaurant offering a different experience, something that is missing from that particular area. And I think these bases still resonate today, that there are different levels of dining, and there are different kind of needs for guests, depending on the occasion, on the time, on the day, on the kind of company that you have.
Yep.
So we've always been the kind of restaurant that is targeting people living and working in the financial center and the neighboring neighborhoods. So the Sheikh Zayed Road, downtown. So the restaurant was created for that type. It was created for an experience that is not the high-end fine dining experience, where it's a little bit more stiff and it's very kind of controlled in that way. We were meant to be a place that was slightly more accessible, slightly more casual, a place for if you're entertaining certain business guests in the neighboring restaurants, ours would be the place where you come with your own colleagues and your own friends and family and let go a little bit, right? You will still have delicious food, great service, fantastic, menu offerings, but you will have it without all the unnecessary fluff and a little bit more, value, or a little bit more accessible price points, if you like. So those were the origin. This is the origin of Boka. And because we were homegrown, we wanted to always refer back to the place that Boka was born from, right? From Dubai, from the UAE. What does that look like? There are a lot of nuances, a lot of small things that you can pay tribute to, regardless of the cuisine that you're cooking. You can always use a locally sourced fish to execute it on a level that you want, with the flavor profile, with the execution, with the presentation that you want. So this is the origin story. This is how we started.
And, how did you get into this sustainability, the green, the truly green side of it? Where is that coming from? And of course, I have deeper questions on, what does it look like in terms of economics? I'm sure it's not easy at any level, but where is that green side of things came? When did they step in?
That was the moment in the gastronomy industry of Dubai, the culinary world, where a lot of chefs that worked under the likes of Gordon Ramsay and the likes started leaving and setting up their own. That's when we started hearing of homegrown restaurants rivaling imports. There was a beginning of a movement that exceptional people in the industry, the real influencers, the real food writers, and obviously an important name comes to mind is Samantha Wood. She was quite instrumental in highlighting early on, back in the day, the true heroes of gastronomy that are homegrown. And we were among a group of incredible people that were always highlighted. And I wanted to amplify that. I always wanted to double down on that and show what does an internationally recognized, what does a restaurant, what does a restaurant from Dubai look like, regardless of the cuisine or experience that you're presenting.
Sure.
What is a real identity of a Dubai restaurant? So we started doubling down on ingredients that are from the UAE. Obviously, they have to be of a certain quality and a certain level that is compelling enough to present to our guests. And with the help of chef, we started researching what grows here, what can we truly bring to the table, literally. And we started visiting the fish market in different times of the year, trying to dig into research into variety of fish and names, understand how the market works and how the fish arrives from the boat to the stall. So not just taking things at a face value. And I learned that early on from my research days, and it took a lot of time. It took talking to a lot of people from, the Ministry of Fisheries at the time, to the Ministry of Climate Change, to, champions within the seafood and fish industry here. And it was also the right moment in this history of food security in the UAE. So this was the time when UAE understood that it's such a valuable exercise looking at this particular aspect. So we started hearing of initiatives to encourage homegrown, locally grown produce, encouraging conventional organic farms, hydroponics, aquaponics, the whole agri-tech sector, from seafood and fisheries as well. We started seeing Dubai Bay oysters come to markets, Pure Harvest Smart Farm tomatoes, mushrooms that are locally grown. So we kept really close tabs on a lot of these growers to understand, not just to test their product, but to understand the journey and amplify the stories. Because where we are today, we are really a platform for telling these stories. We are storytellers of the journey of a lot of these founders, of the story of a lot of that product. So this is also part of restaurant world. I mean, a classic example is, your cliche idea of a maitre d' in the restaurant talking about how they have this particular person that they source this particular fish from. Or in a way, what we're trying to do here is tell the stories from our part of the world in a genuine way, in a way that is modern, that is true to the character and the timeline of the nation. We are a young country, and the matter of the fact, it is 98% non-arable land. It's desert, but we have the commitment of the leadership, the willingness. And I think if anything that anyone can learn from the leadership of Dubai and the UAE is the can-do attitude. It's like, let's make it happen. We have a blank canvas. We have desert, and just like we said earlier on, from early days, the leadership was adamant as creating infrastructure. What do you create out of nothing? You have the resources, so you're investing in infrastructure. And this is what's happening today. And what we wanted to do is saying, this classic idea of a restaurant being farm to table, it only exists in certain places in the world. with urbanization, with cities spiraling, with restaurants being more and more in modern cities, what does a truly sustainable restaurant look like in this entire setup? We're not going to lie and say, oh, I have a garden in the back, and that's where I'm sourcing everything from. No, that's not true. It's also not true that I will ever be able to source 100% of my product locally. That doesn't exist because the food system is not designed that way. The global food system is not designed that way either. And that's not where real impact comes from. And we can get into more details of what responsible sourcing looks like. But going back to the main topic, those were the initial motivations.
Was it
of everything.
and I'm sorry if I'm not trying to oversimplify that, but was it also an economically motivated decision that you want your supply chain to be more, predictable, and you want more control over your suppliers and not just, be at the mercy of importers and the middlemen? What were the economic or the more functional reasons to do that?
Oh, you said it. Absolutely. I mean, the moment that we are able to get closer to the source of our product, having a unique product that no one else is using, because when we were exploring local fish variety, for example, we knew immediately that certain things like hamur and Sultan Ibrahim are overfished, according to the Ministry of Fisheries at the time and the Ministry of Climate Change and Environment. That hamur population,
types of fishes.
Yeah, hamur population, which is a type of grouper, the most popular type of fish, and actually really, really delicious because it's meaty, it's chunky, it's great to work with, but it's just simply overfished. Because beyond these two types, people are unaware of what else grows here, and there's a lot that grows here. And at the time, there was a national campaign to try to get people to consume other variety that has a lot bigger population. And that's what we started hitting and we started experimenting with. See, one of the things that chefs and restaurants perhaps don't have a lot of resources of is time. Time to go out there, speak to people, research, do a bit of R&D in the kitchen and experiment, because we're in the city where time obviously equals money, and you need to open the restaurant and you need to go. And why would you go out there to the market yourself? We don't have a lot of chef, owner, operator. Let's face it, most chefs in the city are employed by an owning company, and there's a purchasing department and there's finance that's responsible, and they want to see a supplier come to you, offer you credit terms, giving you a proper invoice, and they have a catalog of ingredients, and they want to maximize their own profit. So they're bringing in the most high value items that you can maximize, obviously, the margins on.
Correct.
And that's all they're going to tell you. And of course, it's in their advantage to tell you that anything that is local is inferior. Don't go for that. But it's up to you, I think, and it was the responsibility that I took on my shoulders with the assistance of, obviously, the culinary team and the chef, was to really bring the best out of local produce and follow whatever seasonality that we can. So having direct access to the source as close as possible, because we found out later on that it's almost impossible to have access to where the actually boat is fishing from. So there are still a few middlemen involved, but you have access to a unique product at a great price. I mean, this is it, right? So you've got better margins, you've got something that no one else has, and an incredible real story to tell as well.
You said that we can go into the depths of what responsible sourcing looks like. Give me a few nuances of to what extent do you guys go in your diligence?
So there are many things to look at here. There is obviously, we always start from what is local. We need to understand, I think, and this is applicable to any restaurant or any organization that is sourcing any type of material. understand what does the local landscape look like. And in our case, we have to dig a little bit deeper, because it's very easy to say, come on, this is the desert. What grows here? Nothing. So understand and really map that out. And this was exactly what we did. We started with 1,400 kilometers of coastline that we have access to. I mean, that's overlooking 2 bodies of water. There is surely types of seafood and fish that, also, again, trying to understand what grows here as well and in these waters is really important. And that's what we did. And that's the case with the fish and seafood. Agri-fisheries, new fisheries that we're starting, new aqua culture and aqua farms. So the likes of Dubai oysters are incredible stories to amplify, and we backed that story from day one, even before it went to market. Because
what's the story?
So there's an incredible gentleman who's now moved on from Dubai oysters, created the first edible oyster farm here in the UAE on the East Coast. So they are Pacific variety oysters that are brought in baby form, and they grow in the open waters, in nets they call lanterns, and they feed off of the planktons that exist in the waters, and they grow into these beautiful oysters that produce a truly balanced piece of meat that's not too sweet, not too salty, is the right perfect amount. And they grow here in the waters. And the benefits are beyond just offering a new food variety and a new produce, but the biodiversity around that area, because oysters are great water purifiers. And you see a lot of biodiversity coming in around these shells when they grow. It goes beyond that, and we work closely with them to collect a lot of the shells after consumption, clean them, and bring them back to the farm, because along with specialty divers and the government of Fujairah, they're building a new coral reef on the bottom of the ocean. You see, in closed shores, there's
like
not a lot of
reef.
stuff. There's not a lot of stuff that grows. So it's actually an extension of the desert. But they're building these new bases that will propagate corals on top of them.
Sure.
And the best base are the shells of the oysters, especially the ones that were growing in that area. So you don't risk any, if you're collecting shells from different parts of the world, and you can risk introducing new parasites.
Correct.
But it's the perfect base. And I think the target was a 1 kilometer long base to propagate corals, and they're around 20-25% through with that project. Wow. So an incredible project that we were behind, not just to introduce a delicious product to our guests, but also it goes beyond that.
Yeah, I'm sure for tourism will be a great diving site as well.
Oh, absolutely. It's a great place to go diving, the East Coast for sure. So in fish and seafood, that's what it looks like. Beyond that, beyond what we can source locally, we are open to sourcing from other parts of the world, as long as we understand the methods of fishing. And there are so many established practices that are not advantageous for the environment. So trolling, where nets are just mowing down the entire bottom of the ocean and just grabbing everything with them. And obviously a lot of fished product is discarded. So there are so many practices that we try to avoid. We try to at least understand the name of that source as much as possible. We don't, it's very hard to be what is the word? To be all or nothing, to say we only fish, from, we try as much as possible, right? So as long as we have an understanding of where that comes from. We've avoided having salmon on our menus for a long time.
Reason?
Salmon is being overfished, and the fishing, the growing practices of a lot of farms are proven to be completely destructive not just from a nutritional perspective, but also an environmental perspective. So we try to avoid that as much as possible. Whenever we serve it, we make sure that it's certified of being wild at least. And there are enough margins to help us cover that. So we're really not looking at the 1 or 2 dirham differences in produce. And then the same goes for all other variety of product that goes into our menus, from vegetable and fruits. So again, we start with local. And yes, we live in the desert, but there are certain conventional and organic farms that exist here. In certain times of the year, we're able to source locally.
By the way, I did not know that there are local fruits and vegetables.
So mostly on the vegetable side. Yeah. So you're able to source certain
but these are like
green vegetables.
Hydroponics, so these are like indoor farms?
So it's a mix. So there are conventional farms, there are a few organic farms, and then there are the agri-tech producers or people growing greenhouses, whether it's low-tech or high-tech. So we use a variety of them. And there are success stories, especially on the agri-tech side. So now we are able to source delicious, almost 4 variety of tomatoes from growers in Al Ain called Pure Harvest Smart Farms. And these are one of the more successful ones that were able to have the right economies of scale, have the right production cycles, the right operation, logistics as well. And it was long in the making. And obviously at the end of the day, the produce is absolutely delicious, nutritious, and at the right price to us. And you can see them now across retail as well. We're able to source mushrooms from certain producers as well. So whenever we can, we want to make sure that we're in the know and we're able to reach to these guys. It doesn't always work because for logistics reasons, we cannot have our chef's team on the road every day. We're the one restaurant. We don't have that big scale to afford our own logistics team. So, but we give it a try. And even if we're able to source it, for example, once, we will use it for a certain event, again, to tell the story, to amplify these messages. And whenever we cannot do it locally, again, we go for regional or global sources where we at least know the name of the farm, where we can at least tribute that product to a certain region, a location, or preferably, obviously, a farmer or a person.
I'm sure these stories might have also motivated a lot of entrepreneurs who are growing or producing locally to just come to you as the first one they approach. And I'm sure your sourcing might have, at least discovery, might be easier as compared to somebody else.
No, you're right. I think, the evolution and the recognition and our messaging has been clear and compelling for a lot of people who are trialing and introducing new product to come. I would love to take them all, but obviously it doesn't always make sense. Sure. So we'll have to weigh in what makes sense for us at that time. But we've always experimented and welcomed a lot of new growers and new producers, and especially ones that have a true story and a belief in actually creating a better food system. And I'm very wary here of sometimes people who are coming from a different perspective. And with all respect to everyone, I think people from the tech industry are always trying to find areas to disrupt.
Correct.
And we've seen a lot of them trickle into food systems, but the motivations are not there. The motivations are only to disrupt and to come in the middle.
And disrupt in a very, very bad way. And I come from tech. So I
for the benefit of the shareholders, and that's it.
Correct.
So yes, of course, we are all here to, at the end of the day, businesses are there to make money and to increase the profitability. But there is a way of doing it while still being an integral part of the food system. So I truly believe in that. Of course, there are always better ways to deliver certain products from A to B, and there are certain things, but it doesn't have to be at the expense of integral people in the industry.
I hear you. Absolutely. I think all tech is not bad, but I think tech industry, unfortunately, and it's not only in the food, I think everywhere in the world, and especially whenever tech startups. They look at traditional businesses across their value chain. I don't know, the operating assumption is that everybody's stupid and we are going to fix it. And you'll be surprised how many times I have this debate with fellow entrepreneurs, and including aspiring ones who are pitching, and I, do small startup investments, but I'm quite proactive about it for the last 10 years. How many times I'll have this conversation with someone saying, hey, you know what, let's not start by saying that this, middlemen in this value chain are stupid. Let's not start by that. Prove it. Tell me how. Tell me why are you telling me that the point A does not know about the point B? So yeah, they didn't know. So then why are they still paying A1, A2, A3, A4? There has to be a logic to this. There has to be a reason to this. And maybe you're able to do it at a small scale. When you go large scale, you will also end up doing exactly the same thing because they exist for a reason. And instead of disrupting, tell me who's getting that value. Don't tell me that you are the smart guy who's going to crush margins of these 4 people, take it, and A and B will, remain as is. Doesn't make sense. Tell me how's A benefited, how's B benefited, and how both of them will help you get benefited in the process. In fact, tell me a better story. Tell me how will you, help become A1, A2, A3 more efficient, or maybe have better margins or have a better life. And trust me, you will have the entire value chain working for you rather than against you.
You're absolutely spot on. And I'd love to unpack that a little bit more because you're absolutely right. What value are you bringing? Is it just disrupting for the sake of disrupting and only increasing the value of your own setup and your organization? The number of times during a particular, I think might have been immediately after pandemic or just before, when the whole world of agri-tech was just starting to get that boom. And you obviously had government funding that was coming in to subsidize a lot of these investments. Yeah. I would have proposals from people who have no connection to the food industry whatsoever. They're pure tech people coming to me with proposals to build an hydroponic farm. For the sake of what?
Yeah.
Or organizations coming to sell me a hydroponic setup to install in my restaurant so I can grow my own lettuce. With no understanding whatsoever on scale or value or what does that have to do with me, or absolutely absurd. I couldn't believe it. And I questioned myself. I was like, what am I missing here? Am I missing something? I really need to think about this. And we've seen a lot of people crash and burn. We've seen huge investments. We're talking about extremely senior people and discussions that were happening on an absolute senior level, on a government level, that have just completely disappeared.
I'll tell you a scary story. And I was laughing at the hydroponic, those kind of, I also got those proposals where, without any understanding of, what the difference between a good lettuce and a bad one, and the cycles of production, and even how to sell and how to preserve and how to
just how much lettuce can we really use in a day.
Correct, right? So without that, people came with proposals of hundreds of thousands of square feet of. Anyway, I'll tell you where it all goes wrong. A friend of mine who raised a couple billions in hospitality, in hotel industry. One day, just pre-pandemic, so bad timing, he started randomly investing in warehousing, co-living, cloud kitchens, and some random stuff very, very fast. I mean, when you want to blow up $500 million, it's life is easy.
Yes.
So I asked him, I said, wow, what's up? And the guy said something which was super scary. He said, Ashish, I've realized that we are not in the hotel industry. I said, okay. He said, we are in the real estate industry. I was like, what? Mm-hmm. So he said, anything that encompasses, anything that can happen in a real estate physically, we should own that. I was like, oh my God. I said, I don't know at what point, this will get burned. But I am 101% sure that the fact that you're trying to run a hotel and a cloud kitchen and a co-living and a co-working and warehousing, I think you just lost the plot. I think you just completely lost the plot. I said these beasts they have their own nature, they have their own type, there are species of its own, and it may need a lifetime to just tame one, if at all. So I think that's where tech startups go really crazy, where you oversimplify, something down to, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Cloud kitchens is another one for sure. Oh my word. There was a time again where
everybody
so many proposals. You got to get on it now before it's too late. Get in early on a cloud kitchen setup.
It's funny. We run restaurant tech, right? So I was speaking at this conference in Texas. And conference is called the Ghost Kitchen Conference. So I was doing a keynote. And there were, I think, like 700 odd operators in the room. And I got on the stage and I have no reason to lie. I'm also a bootstrapped, self-funded, profitable company in tech. So I don't have any reason, to go beyond a certain point and say, oh, no, I need to do, wrong. Right? So I got on the stage and I basically said, well, I broke down the economics of cloud kitchen. And I said, basis these economics, if you're running a pure cloud kitchen, you cannot make money in 200 years. And the room burst in a nervous laughter. And Omar, I'll tell you, at least 50 people walked up to me post my, talk. And of course, I was very clear that these ghost kitchen conference guys are never calling me back. But 50 people walked up to me, and these were like Midwesterners, seasoned operators, most of them 20, 30 years in the play, who actually walked up to me and said, thank you for breaking down the economics. And almost all of them said the same thing in different ways, that this is exactly how our economics looks like. My son or my second generation or my manager or my shareholders are asking me to do this, and the numbers don't add up, doesn't make sense. And I was so far thinking that maybe I am wrong or maybe I'm missing something. And I came to this conference exactly to understand what am I missing. Thank you for saying that, because we really needed this. And what do you think we should do? I said, please use Cloud Kitchen as a hybrid extension to test or to make your food accessible to your customers where your restaurant is not there. But it is not a substitute to your real restaurant. Make it work much better than Cloud Kitchen. With that, you can operate that Cloud Kitchen with, let's say, no margin. Think of it like marketing costs.
Sure.
It's fair.
Sure, of course.
But if you need to still earn margins from your dine-in, and if you're not doing that as a combination, from my vantage point, I see 50 countries every day, at least on my dashboard. 50 countries, people are not making money in cloud kitchens. I can guarantee that. Right? So,
incredible.
All this detail, from responsible sourcing to doing right to your customers, doing right to your, employees, and building a culture and a name and a story which is consistent over a decade. Is the cost of that, expansion? Why not a second restaurant or a third restaurant so far?
No, not at all. It was something, I think the two are definitely connected. But at the same time, the effort is, had to be there. I really believe that for us to establish a base for, the hospitality operator that we were creating to run Boka at the time, and still until today, of course, needed to have something that is grounded in different principles, or in a wider principle base. Yes, of course, just like incredible operators here, we're about, operating a great team that delivers exceptional hospitality in a fresh and young and in a way that makes absolute sense for the time that we're in, and really rooted in this sustainability ethos that is undeniable. I was adamant at establishing that. And I think Today, and there's obviously always room for growth and development. We've clearly established that we're doing what we're doing extremely well. The recognition shows that. We're recognized by industry, by colleagues, and I'm really proud of what we've built today. And we've been on this now for a few years, is we are ready to take the heart and the ethos of this hospitality operator different places. First of all, we want to make sure that what the brand stands for today, the value of everything that we've created, the infrastructure and the structure and the fit out catches up with it. So there's certain things that we have to do, fix in perhaps the legacy place and the center of where it all started, which is the location in the financial center. So we need to change a lot of things. Obviously you can build restaurants and you always visualize how you want the restaurant to operate and where you want the guests to dine and sit and gather and how you want the service to run. But at the end of the day, the moment you open, your guest is going to decide where is the most comfortable place, where they want to gather, where they want to host things.
Yeah.
Right. So you're lucky if you're able to go back and do certain adjustments. We've done certain things, but I think it's been a while now that it's ready to do a kind of a dramatic change and shift that fits what is required today from the zone that has evolved as well. The market has changed, competition has changed tremendously. So we're ready for that. And beyond that, we are ready also to take the heart of what BOCA stands for and apply it in different locations, to different communities, to different places in Dubai, in Abu Dhabi, in the UAE, and other places. We're ready. We're at the cusp of establishing that. And we're hoping to make certain announcements in the coming few months.
Awesome.
So we are ready for that. I think myself and the team is ready to take the story to different places.
Beautiful. Then I have a follow-up question on that. 10 years. It's been 10 years?
Yes.
10 years compounding it, in a city like Dubai, in the heart of the city, epicenter of all the action that is happening. What helped so far, keep all the temptation and distraction at bay and just be at it at one restaurant? I'm 101% sure you have all kinds of distractions available, from capital chasing you to partners chasing you to potential franchisees to, I don't know, all kinds of people telling you and firing up your imagination that, hey, let's open 10 of these and 5 of these and let's go to Saudi and let's go somewhere else. What made you stay course and say, no, we're going to run only one and we'll do it perfectly?
It was definitely our commitment to staying true to who we are, and not get distracted or tempted to follow certain trends or certain blips on the radar of, hospitality, whether it's the way we execute things or whether it's the way we want to present ourselves in different places. The fact that we're, again, bootstrapped, the fact that we don't have access to these huge funds to be able to risk a lot of that. There were so many proposals and so many tempting things that were on offer, that would offer obviously capital expenditure and certain things that are paid up front. But I see longevity, and I never saw a lot of these proposals going beyond the first year. I think maybe that's the only difference. And I still crave the time and the day where you're able to apply a hospitality concept on a shorter time span. I don't see how that is possible when you're building physical spaces and infrastructure, and regardless of how economical or how smart you are with your fit out, it's still infrastructure that's being spent. And in the world of accounting, how do you depreciate that so fast that all
pays for itself, makes money for you?
It's not possible in my mind, unless you're there to make a quick gain and exit and move on to the next thing.
Correct.
And that also has to do with the commitments of the owners, where they said, okay, this is where we're committed to, and we're going to see it through, and this will become the legacy. And that's where I saw it, and that's where I was maybe very risk averse when it came to doing things haphazardly.
Did entrepreneurs, colleagues, I mean not colleagues, but maybe the fraternity, well-meaning people, did you get threatened by the narrative that you're conservative or you're not ambitious enough?
Yeah, for sure. I think people saw us as perhaps, from different types of people, different people who were involved in the business and not involved. They saw us as just, laying on our, sort of our own creation, and we're not ambitious enough, or, we didn't want to follow the trend of everyone expanding and opening, second and third locations and going different places. And that at a certain stage, when it was just rampant, here in the industry, was counterproductive to what we were doing. And it was a little bit kind of demotivating to, see everyone go on a roll, but sort of stay and hold the fort. I guess we've been waiting for the right moment or the right kind of, investment or the right time, really, for it to all kind of tip.
Omar, this is genuinely a question for, existing restaurateurs in the early years or the mid years, because I think in every business, and restaurants are more visible, they're out there in public, right? So when somebody's like rolling 10 restaurants, only a restaurateur knows in their heart that, oh damn, they might be going through the hardest time of their life, but or they are about to go through the hardest time of their life, even if they have a lot of funding. But how do you hold on to that, truth and say, hey, my one restaurant is, making more profit than somebody's 10 restaurants. So I'm going to just be conservative, hold on, perfect my process.
To be honest, it's if I would do things differently, I would definitely look at, in the restaurant world, especially in a place maybe like Dubai, but actually, that's not true. This is something applicable to anywhere in the world. The restaurant goes through seasonality. It's very rare the number of places that withhold the same level of business that is coming in throughout the year, throughout the years. So what makes absolute sense is to have a diversity of income coming in so that you can cover your seasonality, either in different locations with different business modes, or in different businesses, through delivery or through catering, or through events. So what is very true in the industry today is about having those different streams where you're able to balance things. And of course, in terms of operational costs, you're able to spread that a lot better, so that you can have a much better looking P&L. But at the same time, definitely being cautious for sure. This is also a market that is shape-shifting, is changing. There are certain locations and developments that no longer exist, that were hyped in certain time. So yes, you want to capitalize on what is new, what is latest, but approaching things with a bit of more cautious. We're seeing more of that now. There was a time for sure where, either because of big investments coming into restaurants, especially here, when I was at hyper growth mode, or certain valuations were also taking place that didn't make any sense. And we know the big stories from the past, how people were burnt. There is certain, I think, real valuation that has to come from a restaurant's perspective, rather than from an equity fund perspective, or from an entrepreneur, or God forbid from a tech perspective, trying to anticipate things that don't make sense at all.
Omar, how did Michelin happen, and how did it change life? What happened what happened with the Michelin Green, and tell me, what was the process, or what was the drill? How did you get to know, and how has it changed life for Boka since?
We, after pandemic, I think we set the intention among the team to say, we've built now quite a base. We have a base and we have a way of doing things that maybe is not so visible at this stage on the local market. But we've been keeping our eyes open. We've been understanding what others in the world have been doing that have a kind of a similar, to a certain extent, perspective. So we set the intention that we want to take our story to the next level. We want to take ourselves seriously, first of all, in our offering, and kind of tighten all the bolts in terms of making sure that we have the correct professional execution of our foods. We understand where we source our products from, and we truly describe them in the way that they are, without adding fluff or anything that is unnecessary. The correct service, the correct approach to our guests, the correct portrayal of all of this, the way we communicate. We want to take ourselves seriously and take it to the next level. So we set that intention and we put it out to the world, connecting with the correct people, attracting the right people, having the correct people amplify our stories. Those are the ones that we wanted through the door.
So if I just break it and simplify it, when you say that we set that intention and then we, told the world and attracted right people or made right people tell our stories, does it mean PR? Does it mean
it's a whole
social
mix
media
of
marketing?
things, for sure. It's a whole mix of things.
Tell me a few.
It starts with the profile of the people working, right? The correct culinary team, led by the correct chef who has the right skill set, who has the right attitude and the right way of understanding that story. Whenever behind most successful restaurants is a leading chef who has has a certain background, right? There's no one cookie cutter, right? People come in now from different backgrounds, cooking different types of cuisines, leading different types of restaurants, different types of kitchen. But as long as it's genuine and that story is told, again, through the communication channels, how do we communicate anything that we do, whether it's our sourcing or our chef or our food, is through, first of all, the guests that we receive every day. We talk to them. Our team speaks to them directly. There's a certain tone. There's certain words, choice of words. When you open the menu, there's a certain script and a copy, and the way the food is described and what is amplified and what is not. We try as much as possible in our menus. We actually have to hold ourselves from adding so much detail because we're wary that, not everyone, first of all, is interested in understanding too much out of a dining experience, right? People go to dine out for entertainment, to have a great meal. Before
you want to exactly tell them what they are looking for rather than confuse them or overwhelm them.
Thank you.
With details.
So if you see our menus now, the main ingredient is the name of the dish. The source of that ingredient is then slightly muted, but it's there. The type of cooking.
So you've named your dishes simple.
Very simple.
Beautiful.
And it's all from the ingredient, right? It's not necessarily caviar or wagyu or truffle. It's camel cheese, or it's a local fish, a kingfish. So it's really about that. We have even at the end of the menu, and if you're interested to know more, there's a map of the Northern Emirates with our favorite growers and where things come from. Brilliant. So that's really, you immediately have a sense, if you even spend 15 seconds flipping through the menu, that this is certain standards or certain principle that the restaurant is behind. And if you're curious even more, and if we brought in obviously certain, journalists and writers and opinion leaders and influencers and industry colleagues who helped amplify that message. And these are the people that will tell our story. Again, because we're not just talking about great food. Of course, that has to be there. Service has to be there. A comfortable, good space has to be there. But if you can have all of that and then also stand for something bigger and larger, people love that, right? So that is the intention that we set. And those are the things that we did and executed. And those are the people that we told the story that helped us tell that story to others.
And then
the likes of the people that set the standards in the world, your Michelin, your world's 50 best restaurants, your Go-Mio, all the others, obviously, that's how do they do their research? How do they send their investigators, they send their voters, they listen to what's out there. And those are the people who say, yes, check out what these guys are doing, because they're doing something different. They're doing something around local sourcing and waste and sustainability. And people are always amazed. And there's a certain contrast that is amplified here. The fact that there is someone or a restaurant that stands for high level of sustainability in a place like Dubai.
Yeah.
I mean, I better see that. I want to see that. I want to know, because most of the time people are skeptic.
Correct.
Because let's face it, Dubai doesn't necessarily sell that. That's not what people know Dubai for.
Yeah, this is a high consumption, raging market. Like it's
right?
It's completely outside of the character of Dubai.
Thank you. And we understand that completely. And I have met, most of the people that I meet, especially during my travels, especially when we receive international journalists or guests from abroad saying, what do you mean sustainability in Dubai? In a
desert
petro state, which is sometimes the Western media tries to label. How do you stand for that? And this is where we lay out our principles, our groundwork from a really an organic way from the ground up, saying, this is how we approach the market. Those are the people that are growing certain things here. We don't claim that we're farm to table. We don't claim that we're 100% local, but that's not what drives real impact. It's not just food miles, but it's the way the produce is grown or taken care of. It's the stories, the people behind it. It's looking at waste and that's another world that we look at. It's managing resources in the restaurant. It's looking at the community that we operate in. It's looking at the staff, the welfare of them. So it's a broad spectrum that follows the real principles of sustainability overall, beyond just food.
What do you mean by 100% renewable energy, in financial centers?
So Boka runs on solar power. And again, we are not a restaurant that is in a field in an independent state. We are in the heart of downtown.
Correct.
In an urban city, in one of the most modern cities in the world. So how do you operate? How do you run on renewable energy? Again, a lot of our talk and our conversation has helped us partner up with incredible people within not just the food world, but within the sustainability realm. So we met this incredible startup at the time, a new carbon management consultancy. That is obviously their main clients are the larger corporates looking at carbon emissions and calculations. And we partnered up with them and they assisted us in understanding the impact of the restaurant with true form. And this is what I've always been seeking.
The footprint.
The footprint, calculated, not by us, by a professional auditor that looked at our entire production and life cycle, meaning what do we consume in terms of energy? How do we burn our own gas that emits CO2? And obviously we do from our cooking. Again, resources that we use to power the restaurant, electricity, cooling, power, water, understand all of that. And then everything else that we purchase, our commute, the commute of our guests, all the products that we cook, the waste that we produce. And when it comes to using resources, the energy that we consume, we have the option of any establishment has the option of installing solar panels on the roof. We don't have that option. My landlord wouldn't allow me. Now, with the help of my carbon management consultant, we were able to approach something called the Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Solar Park. It's a massive piece of land in Dubai, here in the desert, where they are able to provision a solar panel that produces the same amount of energy that I require for the entire year. That feeds into the grid of the city and then feeds to me. And with that, I receive an internationally recognized certificate called IREC that I can make the claim officially.
Yeah, you
Boka runs on 100%.
You offset your
It is an
carbon
offset,
footprint.
correct. Yeah. It is an offset at the end of the year. It's an additional cost. It's very small. It's very marginal. But with that, I'm contributing to the development of this new renewable energy part of the city that is currently very small. I think it's below 5%, and the target is in the next 5 years is going to go up to 15 and beyond in the city of Dubai.
That is beautiful. I think that is probably, the greatest show of, intent and execution, both. And for that carbon consultancy to work with you, for your kind of project, I'm sure it was just pure love and intent and,
absolutely.
Why they want to do it.
All the respect and shout out to Element 6 and Ahmed Arafat and Dalia from Element 6. They've been absolutely instrumental in this journey for sure.
That is amazing. Omar, I absolutely loved this chat. Thank you for doing this, because it has added a lot of value, a lot of thoughts, and I think the biggest takeaway that I'm taking from this is the intent for sustainability, and not really for sustainability, for being green, and not really just succumbing to the fact, we can't do it because our surroundings don't have apply or allow, or circumstances don't allow, but you remain intentional and you do whatever it takes, to whatever extent it takes, and it happens. Your Michelin Green speaks volumes about it. I'm honored to have you over the pod, and all the best for what's coming for Boka, in near to midterm future.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Ashish.